Welcome back to Star Wars Central. Today we basically just split the atom, and a whole load of Star Wars Battlefront related crap just fell out. We have a ton of Star Wars Battlefront leaks from a website called Making Star Wars, which seems to be very much in the know when it comes to the details of Star Wars Battlefront. So the article is structured in bullet points, so I'm just going to go straight through it all to make sure that you guys get all of the information that's supposedly been leaked out. Just a quick reminder though, this is all rumour and speculation until it's confirmed by DICE, but I myself am taking this as not necessarily definitive, but proof of what the game will be like. First point. The story of Star Wars Battlefront's campaign will span pretty much the entire Star Wars saga. So that must mean that we're getting clones and droids, thank God, because the community backlash at DICE for showing us only original trilogy footage was quite extreme. I had a lot of comments on a lot of the videos on this channel where people were really disappointed with their decision not to show us droids and clones, and obviously saying that it includes the entire Star Wars saga must mean that they're present, so thank God they've seen the light, and I'm just sorry that so many fans perhaps overreacted at what was just poorly timed releases. Next point, Star Wars Battlefront will feature segments in which you play as both the good guys, Old Republic, Rebellion and Republic, and the bad guys, the Separatists and the Empire. Next point, there are going to be 64 players on each team for the multiplayer, totaling a completely ridiculous 128 players in one multiplayer match. I do want to mention here that might only be for the PC Master Race, depending if the next gens can handle that, because 128 players in what must be an absolutely enormous map. Even for a next gen console, that is a pretty big stretch. I'm not sure if they could do that. Next point, space to ground battles have been confirmed, but only in certain game modes. I'm fine with that as long as the space to ground game mode is pretty big and has obviously 64v64, then I'm happy. Next point, heroes are confirmed. As you play, you will accumulate points that you can eventually use to cash into a hero's character. These characters are extremely powerful, just like the previous Star Wars Battlefront games, and have abilities that are not available to normal players. I'm guessing this is the Force here, but I guess this could also include species-specific traits. Next point, the DLC is extremely aggressive. There are supposedly 5 DLC packs for Star Wars Battlefront. Now that's just madness. The first one is supposedly coming out before the end of 2015, meaning the game will only have released for about a month and a half, 2 months-ish, and then there's going to be another DLC. Each DLC pack will be themed. The first 2 or 3 packs are going to be based exclusively on Star Wars The Force Awakens. Next point, the game will ship with several Force Awakens characters, with more being added through DLC. I'd imagine these are going to be hero characters, but perhaps the campaign could have some of the characters in it as well. Next point, the new versions for the X-Wing and TIE Fighter will be available. Okay, this is kinda cool, but if the originals are not in there, then some tables will be flipped. Also, in game modes and eras in The Force Awakens, the originals should still be available, but obviously less advanced and perhaps more rugged than their counterparts. Because it doesn't make sense that they'd completely switch out the X-Wings just for a slightly upgraded and, dual engine split them apart version. That doesn't make any sense. They should have a mixture of the two available in the more modern era maps. Next point, there are a ton of new ships and vehicles being added. This is fantastic news. Hopefully we see a load of new tanks, armoured personnel carriers, etc. I would love to see controllable frigates, corvettes and capital ships, but I guess that idea may be a bit too big for DICE to take on, because if you do that, you've got to have a colossally huge map. It would just be ridiculous. Next point, the new Stormtrooper armour is present in Star Wars Battlefront, but I'd guess that'd be restricted to only the Force Awakens eras. I hope they've not done a blanket replacement. Next point, these are supposedly confirmed from a department checklist for multiplayer maps, so these are supposedly multiplayer maps that are going to be in Star Wars Battlefront. So we have Hoth from Episode 5, so that'd be the classic AT-ATs versus Snowspeeders. Endor from Episode 6, so that'll pretty much be how the previous Star Wars Battlefront turned out. Alderaan, I hope that has a Levolution event where you're standing on the surface at the end of the match and it just gets blown up. That'd be awesome. But obviously that's kind of a little bit of a weird thing to implement. Coruscant is also going to be present. Order 66 is basically confirmed, because I can't see how they could make Star Wars Battlefront without that classic moment. and the sacking of Coruscant from the Old Republic era is probably likely as well, since that was just a completely badass moment in Star Wars history. Yavin Episode 4, that's going to be very awesome. Please, DICE, let me trench run the X-Wing, and not the new X-Wing, the old Luke Skywalker, Red 5 X-Wing. I like that one. And we also have 3 Tatooine maps. I'm not sure why. Apparently, there seems to be a massive focus on Tatooine as like the iconic Star Wars planet, and although I do agree with this, Star Wars is a much larger universe, and I don't want them to solely develop for like a single kind of almost pitiful area in Star Wars history. Supposedly, the 3 Tatooine maps are going to encompass Episode 1, Episode 4, and Episode 7, so obviously they're going to have some stuff from the new movie as well, which I will be going over in a future video, as we did see a lot of concept art regarding Tatooine from the Force Awakens leak. Next point, there will be a small section of Prequel Trilogy content. This will likely be campaign filler to begin character development and give players a discernible timeline of events when it comes to the campaign that DICE want to portray. Next point, you will participate in a couple of battles from Star Wars The Clone Wars and the space battle above Coruscant from the beginning of Revenge of the Sith. Holy shit, that sounds amazing. I'll be making a video after this going over what battles they could use from the Clone Wars, so stay tuned for that. And I'd also like to mention, DICE, if you actually do that space battle and you do it properly, none of these little pictures of ships going around in circles like the previous Star Wars Battlefront 2, you are hands down the best developers in the world, so please do that. Next point, the majority of the campaign will take place during the original trilogy era, so that means Rebellion versus the Empire. All of the battles and settings that you would expect to be there will be playable, so I'm not sure whether that means only movie reference settings or anything that we know was present in the original trilogy. I for one hope to God that Bespin Platforms is in there somewhere, because even though it wasn't technically referenced in the film, because we only saw Cloud City on Bespin, it was by far one of the most popular maps on Star Wars Battlefront. It even got converted for Star Wars Battlefront 2, that's how popular it was. People loved that map because it was the first Star Wars Battlefront map they likely played when they opened up Instant Action, and for a lot of people, there are a lot of memories on that map. It was the first shooter that I played, and it took me a week to figure out how to move around in it. There will be some parts of the campaign that take place between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens, so that means we will get some awesome filler content. Hopefully that means that it will explain the story, but apparently there won't be a lot, because Lucasfilm has a lot of plans for that era. So I'd imagine they have said no to too much filler because of Star Wars Rebels and other games that they are likely going to use to bridge the gap between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens. Next point, the last section of the Star Wars Battlefront campaign takes place before and during the opening segments of The Force Awakens, meaning the first few scenes of The Force Awakens might be explained by Star Wars Battlefront. Next point, the game is expected to ship about a month before the movie releases. This is great as it gives me time to play the game, get it all completed, do a bunch of videos before I start my habitual binge of Star Wars at the local cinemas, which, it's probably going to last a week, because if it is a good film, I'm going to see it as many times as possible on the big screen, because obviously once it's up and once it's gone, you can only see it on DVD or home cinema, which it kind of sucks when you compare it to seeing it in the cinema and seeing how cool it is on the big screen. Next point, the Republic and Empire sections of the campaign will see you playing as characters from The Force Awakens. So much for the game not being linked to the movie, DICE. It was all a cunning ruse, it would seem. I guess Lucasfilm wanted it to tie in more than everyone anticipated. Next point, EA and DICE were allowed onto the set of Star Wars The Force Awakens and into Pinewood Studios to scan and capture all of the props so that Star Wars Battlefront is as realistic and close to the originals as possible. We actually already knew they did this. This was shown in the 2.5-minute teaser trailer of Star Wars Battlefront that was revealed at the last E3. There's a link to that in the description if you want to see DICE capturing these models. Next point, there is a new Tarkin character. I'm not surprised at all. Tarkin was a complete badass, and it was a shame that he died so early in Star Wars Episode 4. There is no way that they would leave him out. His entire doctrine of fear built the concept of the Empire. He was pretty much Palpatine's other right-hand man when it came to Darth Vader. So that's it, guys. Huge leaks today. Lots of great news. I would just like to remind you that some of this may not be true. It is likely true, though, as this site is very reputable and most of it makes sense. but takes some of the more outlandish points as rumour for now. So that's it for today. If you enjoyed this video and liked how fast I got this news to you, yes, when I realised there was news out, I worked my complete ass off for this one, then please hit that like button. If you stayed this far and listened to all of that, thank you very much. I'll see you next time, and may the Force be with you.